We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. The way to the end zone, and Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
So how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.
Hope it doesn't take that long again. Go Dawgs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 100 Sanford podcast. We in the building. It's Lovelace. It's Foster. We got coffee getting ready to come. It's signing day, man. It's signing day. I know you remember what signing day was like.
Man, that was something else, man. I was just green. It's a whole different process now. I was green to everything, man. I was just ready for the day to come and get it over. We kind of met up in the school cafeteria at Southeast High School in Macon, Georgia. I had me a big red Eddie Bauer sweater on. I remember I was a big kid, you know. I remember when Eddie Bauer came to the Macon Mall. They had there's one of the few places that could fit me. Mm-hmm. And so I had this big old red sweater on for Georgia Bulldogs. Did I have a hat? I might have had a hat, if I'm not mistaken. But so I signed. That's when I signed my letter of intent. You know, in the cafeteria, and everyone was happy, and that's when it all started.
That's a special day, man. They didn't have big and tall back then.
I can't remember, but for some reason, like when Eddie Bauer came, I think they went up to like 3X or something like that, and I was able to get something since I was tall. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I remember that. I wish, if it was. I can't find any type of media from it though. I remember between me and my mom, we have a picture somewhere of me signing. Either she has to find it, or I have to find it. She sends me stuff every now and then from childhood, so maybe she's seen it recently. I have to hit her up. I might post it if she hits me back soon enough. Yeah,
you got to do that, man. That's a special moment. Special moment. I applaud all these kids, not just Georgia, but across the nation, that early committed today, that'll commit finally in February. Even the portal guys, that still get that second opportunity, or for some third, fourth opportunity to go on to another school, because it's a defining moment in their lives, man. It's a situation where they get to go and kind of live out their dream and try to live out the rest of their dreams, depending on what their goals are. So I applaud them, because it's a lot of hard work, especially at this stage. It's a lot of hard work to get to that level. For some, they believe it's a little bit easier, with social media and different outlets and whatnot, for you to be noticed. But still, it's a special moment for the family, everybody involved. I remember when my brother signed his national letter of intent for basketball. It was a special moment, After the fact, he cried and all that other good stuff with it, because you work hard, and it's a whole family event. But for some people, man, it just ain't. And I'm talking about from a team standpoint. I mean, Georgia had a great day, obviously. Since Kirby's been there, never finished lower than I think we never finished lower than fifth since Kirby's been there. But again, another phenomenal day.
And you see what happens when you putting together classes like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We've built some extreme depth, and it's showing on the field. Got a national championship out of it, went to another, just building up that depth, and then showing with some of our key guys missing time this year, we were able to, weather those storms because of those classes that built the depth. So, keep it on coming, man. I'm excited about these new kids coming in, man. It's a lot of, Dawgs pun intended. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of dogs.
Yeah, I mean, even if you heard Kirby, right? I mean, he talked about how special this class is. I mean, and nothing can really be truly defined until you look at 3 years, 4 years out, right? But when you look at this class and what he said, and I noticed this from our conversation with some of the young men, from some of our interaction, not even on the show, but behind the scenes with some of these guys, they're locked in, man, mature, family-oriented guys. And I'm talking about not just their personal family, but team-oriented family guys, contacting the school. What can I do to get better? Have been locked in since day one. I mean, you haven't heard a lot of drama that some of these other schools are going through. And it shows, man. It shows, like you just mentioned, on the field, because look at the portal. I talked to somebody today and they were like, man, Bama's loading up. Bama also lost like 12 or 13 people in the portal. So, I mean, they got to load up. So it doesn't mean that Bama's going to be the same Bama. Now you just got a bunch of youth, and we see what happens when that is part of the equation. Texas A&M had a lot of youth. So you still got to develop that depth, like you said. You still have to develop that camaraderie, that culture, that team. And Kirby is just reloading. That's it. He's just reloading the cupboard.
Reload, baby. And I like it because, it gives us, it's starting to run itself,
Right.
You know what I mean? You gotta, we keeping gas in the tank, so to speak. You know what I mean? And so we, no matter how far we go, we keep putting gas in the tank, and so we can keep going further and further. So I'm excited about these kids. We get grandma hopefully soon to talk about them. You guys are more in tune with the recruiting world than I am. I'm gonna get on it one day. I'm gonna get into it one day.
All right, let me ask you that question since you said that, because it's funny when I talk to some of my guys that are either played high-level college sports, high-level professional sports. How locked in do you become to the process versus versus the finished product? Like you mentioned, you're not as locked in or not as tied into the recruiting side. Is that because you've gone to a certain level, or is it just like, well, been there, done that, and I see what kind of how the process works? It doesn't really matter until 3 to 4 years down the road.
The latter could be part of it subconsciously. You know what I mean? You just know that, you hope you get some good guys who you think are good guys, and then you hope, they end up becoming ballers. But for me, it's just an extra part of the process. You know what I mean? I enjoy the finished product. I enjoy watching football.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that part comes easy to me. There's a set time. It's going to come on this day at this time. I can watch the game. We win, hopefully, and then it's on to the next one. Right. And then you listen for little tidbits of what's going on with your team during the week, who got injured, who's coming back, this, that, and the other. With recruiting, it's so many kids on the radar. And so I get it like organically just from scrolling, social media. I learn who's who the Dawgs are targeting, who everyone else is targeting, who's this kid considering. And so I get a little bit that way, and I'm able to, like you hear a guy's name like, oh, I heard about this kid. He does such and such. This kid's fast. I heard about this kid. This kid is a super athlete. I heard about this kid. You get to hear those things and it comes kind of organically. But some people are invested in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And so they love that part of the game. You know what I mean? It's something that is a part of the game that almost anyone can do. If you know where to look for the kids. You can get on the sites, the message boards, and all that stuff. I don't have a lot of time for all of that. You know what I mean? These girls keep me stretched out. So I don't get into it that deep. But some people are really invested in it, and they have sites, you know, dedicated to it, and all that stuff. So you have to look at, okay, this site has ranked this site has. It's a lot, but that's some people's hobby. You know what I mean? Just like video games or you know, golf or whatever. Some people really get into it. I got a buddy that worked with me, you know, at the Rams. You know, I don't know how deep invested in it he is now, but he worked in recruiting for Bama before he came to us. So he had an ear to the streets on all this stuff. You know what I mean? Even when he left the Rams, you know, he's in another field now. He still has his ear to the streets, you know, and some of this stuff, and he hears some stuff. It's just, you know, that's some people's thing. You know, it just hasn't become my thing yet. I get it. I get whatever I get, like I said, organically, whatever comes across my feed.
Yeah. I think for me, it's a little bit of both. I had my wife one time. She was asking me, you know, like, why are you up watching the draft for 3 days? I mean, I've gone to the NFL drafts. When it comes down to recruiting, I follow it intimately. Probably going through some of the process myself, my family going through the process. But I think for me personally, especially on this side now, I just get more emotionally invested because I'm talking to the families, right? I'm talking to different people, and to see young people's dreams happen, to me, that's amazing, man. It's an amazing, like, you know, I started off the show by talking about how it's an amazing feat, an amazing accomplishment that these kids have. But when you follow them going from high school, you know, 7-on-7s, and they're in 10th grade to watching them mature, then all of a sudden you see a guy like a Nolan Smith, who's a #1 player in the country, not only go to Georgia, but fulfill his obligations and become that leader that you thought he was going to be. And then all of a sudden next year, you know, coming up in April, the NFL draft, it's a cool process to watch. It's kind of like watching a lifetime story for years upon years versus, you know, just watching something on 7 segments or 7 episodes of a show. So
yeah, I'm watching like
cool.
I'm watching some of my old teammates, you know, old classmates. Their kids are coming up. They're playing major college football now. You know what I mean? Like in several sports, man. Like, you know, like my teammate Bruce Thornton, he has and my classmate, you know, Tiana Briggins, they have a couple kids together. One's gonna be playing for Florida, and Bryce Thornton, and one is playing now, doing really well for Ohio State basketball. You know, like, you know, another classmate, Odell Thurman, and, you know, his son, Jelani, going to Ohio State, you know, him and Kara Braxton's son. Like, these are people that we were teenagers chilling together on campus. Now we got kids doing the same thing now. You know, it's cool to see. Yeah. Like, I've watched some of these kids, my boy Ryan over at Woodward. Like, I've watched him coach kids from, you know, 13, 14 years old, and watch them go through college. Some of them probably have kids of their own now, you know. So he's been in it 20 plus years at this about 20 years at this moment. You know what I mean? So it's been fascinating to see, man, this recruiting process.
Well, we're going to get into it deeper. If anybody does not know, you're listening to this show. It's a day after signing day. 26 total commitments, and I say that with quotes, air quotes, 24 in the house. I think 2 outside remaining. I think Cottrell was remaining. We have not seen his papers come across the desk yet, and I can't remember the other one. Man, I have to dig that up. But yeah, I mean, it's still a great day for Georgia right now, ranked the #2 class behind Alabama. Alabama with 6 5-stars. I mean, which is crazy.
Like, people want to talk about Bama because, you know, they ain't in the thick of things this year, man. They never out of it.
Yeah, they ain't out of it. Yeah, I mentioned they got a lot of people to replace, but I mean, you replacing them with some dogs, though, right?
Yeah, a lot of people to replace, but, you know, like, they weren't as strong in some spots as they have been typically, but it's been in the typical spots though. You know what I mean? I don't know, and so they're trying to load back up to get them spots. They need to get those first round DBs again. You know what I mean? They need to get those first round linebackers again, how they used to have. There's that tide in that area of the defense is kind of shifted to Georgia. Kirby snagging those linebackers and DBs like it ain't nothing, man. Like, they are stacking up linebackers and DBs. Man, it's been impressive. But Bama's, like I said, number one class, like, that matters. The thing about them, Bama, you kind of assume, just the way things have been going, that their issues might be on the sideline or the press box. You know what I mean? So we'll see, man. They might have to make some changes in that regard. You know what I mean? Because, like, it ain't like the cupboard is bare.
Right.
So something's up.
Right.
What I mean? Who's the chef?
You always mention, developing in the trenches. To me, it's not like they're not getting those guys that can battle in the trenches. Maybe it has to do something with coaching. Maybe it has to do something with scheme-wise, what they're doing. Even with Georgia, in terms of everybody wanting them to develop more speed on the outside edges with the wide receiver position. That's something that Alabama did, right? But then it's almost like they went away from their identity of controlling the trenches, right? I'm hoping that Georgia does not follow that line of thinking, and right now it doesn't appear to be. But we'll see.
Georgia has been able to be an explosive offense, while maintaining their, toughness, so to speak. You know what I mean? They still gonna hand it off and get those tough yards. Even in the play action game, they get to knock some people around. You see in the running game how physical the wide receivers are. Tight ends playing physical. They still able to score and put up points while being a physical team. I think it seems like Bama got away from that. And you can't really blame with guys like Jameson out there, and but the thing is, when you're built like that, and you run up against those teams that are built to pound you out, you're left not able to handle it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have a switch you could turn on. Oh, y'all want to play this game? Okay, let's do it. I feel like Georgia is built in a way where whatever you bring to the match, they're going to be ready for.
I agree.
That's because they've won, I don't know how many different ways this year. You know what I mean? So they've proven it that way. They're very versatile team through and through that has built depth.
Yeah, I completely agree. And they just, like you just mentioned, they just continue to reload that area. I have a friend that I was messaging, and he said, it ain't like Kirby's emptying the clip. He doesn't empty the clip. He just reloads the clip while he's still shooting. And, so you just continue to have bullets in the chamber and ready to go. And whatever the need is, whether we got to pound you out, whether we got to spread you out, no matter what the defensive calls are, they're ready for that. But we talked about Alabama. We talked about Georgia. The remaining top five was Miami right now, which is a surprise. Miami's really kind of bounced back in terms of recruiting. Texas, another surprise, bouncing back in terms of recruiting. But I see what happened there with Archie Manning. And then you got Ohio State. But what's funny is that LSU finished sixth right now. And so when we talk about Alabama kind of reloading and kind of getting back into what they need to do, they got some problems out there in the West. I mean, Texas A&M had already pulled a bunch of different people from them last year, but you have LSU this year. But we gotta hold off on that because we got a guest. And as always, here on 100 Sanford, we try to bring guests that or applicable to college football, applicable to the University of Georgia, do what they do. Foss, I'll let you introduce this man because he needs no introduction, but I'm going to let you do it anyway.
Hey, man, we got the greatest receiver in Georgia football history. If you really bout it, if you really know Georgia football, you know who I'm talking about. I don't know how many times he was all SEC. I don't know, all the yards and all. I'm sure he know. He gonna let you know. He know how many yards, a touchdown, that he got.
Sure do.
Played for the Falcons, played for the Bombers. Did you play for anybody besides the Bombers? Did you play for Alouettes?
Montreal.
You played for the Alouettes, played for the Bombers in Canada, Ring of Honor. Or is it Hall of Fame? Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame. What is it now?
Hall of Fame, Blue Bomber.
The Blue Bomber Hall of Fame. Man, y'all know what it is, man. This is my dog, my boy, Terrence Eugene. I don't know his middle name. Terrence Eugene Edwards. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good, brother. How y'all doing?
Man, we are good
here, man. We ready. We ogling over this nice class that the Dawgs have put together so far. I know you work closely with high school kids now, privately and as a coach for Milton High School. What do you think about these guys? I'm pretty sure you've seen some of these guys play in person, or maybe even train some of these guys. What do you think about what George is putting together?
Man, I think Kirby went after a certain type of athlete, and we could go from position. I know from my position, the receiver, I tweeted this yesterday that each of the guys that he brought in are probably close to sub-3 receivers besides the big receiver out of Florida, which he still can run. He's the bigger one out the crew. But the Anthony Evans kid, the kid from Pennsylvania, all those kids are sub 4.3 guys. And I think
wait a minute. Did you say sub 4.3?
Man, you go watch those kids run. Man,
Jesus Christ.
3, like legit. And the last kid that we just got, from North Carolina, he just decommitted from North Carolina State. I just tweeted, I think he's a running back, but it seems like he's going to play DB. But if you look on his page, he's 4'3", 10'6" type of kid. 6. So, Kirby went with a lot of speed. But, George, I was looking at the O-line. All of 6'6" or taller.
Yeah.
6 or taller. I was like, these guys are huge.
That's what they're working with now. Well, you got with guys like Broderick out there and Big what's my guy? Big 70. What's his name?
McClendon.
Warren McClendon on the other side. Like the thing is, like everybody ain't got that, but when you the king of the hill, you get to pick them type of guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? You get the pick of the litter, however you want to get them, and they got them coming right behind these guys. The Hughley kid from Langston Hughes, he's a big, tall, long guy. Who else they got? But the Monroe Freeling. He's a tall guy. Like you get the pick of the litter when you win championships and go to SEC championships. You get the pick, and so, man, like you said, and I like that you said that Kirby picks a certain type of guy across positions. Right. Every position, either you can develop you or you fit what he wants to do right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
George, let me ask that question because he brought up the receivers, right? And we just got done talking about a little bit about how Bama all of a sudden went away from the trenches, went to the outsides, trying to have that more explosive offense. And he's a legend, right? He knows the wide receiver position better than anybody. What do you think Kirby's trying to do and this offense is trying to do with all this speed on the outside? Because we've been hungering for the speed. We've been looking for that explosive guy. But what do you think he's going to do with this mix of receivers here in the next few years?
Kirby, when you know, Alabama was at its best when Kirby was there. He saw the receivers that Alabama had throughout that stretch, right? Mm-hmm. So all those guys could take a RPO slant and take it to the house, you know, with Wilder and Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy. Like, those type guys was game breakers. And Kirby is looking for game breaker type receivers, a guy that could take the top off. And we know football is being able to run and take top off of defense. That in itself, you don't have to be able to catch a football down the field, but if you can scare defenses and not being able to bring that extra man into the box, that opened the box up. That's a light box for us. I mean, and George know about that. Now we working on numbers. It's a box. Box. Speed brings that. I mean, if you watch teams play Alabama last few years, they could not bring that seventh man into the box. They had to play a too high shell, right? And you look at the way
too high.
But look at the Tennessee, the way they played. They're a vertically stretched team. You can't bring an extra guy in the box against Tennessee. So everyone now wants to be able to throw the ball vertically, but that opened up so much on the offense if you have guys that you're scared of, that you can push vertically and open up the running game. It just opened up so much when you have guys who just can flat out run.
And I feel like that's why, you know, Kirby, it seems like he builds a lot. Obviously, he's a defensive guy. You know, he stockpiling DBs, stockpiling linebackers, you know, getting those D linemen in the middle. What that allows you to do is it allows you to play too high because you can stop the run. Right. You can stop the run with 6-man box.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you can stop the run with a 6-man box, you know, sometimes 5-man box if you got, you know, if you're in dime or whatever, that allows you to do a lot on that back end. Right. You're eliminating everything. If you got those big guys up front playing, you know, gap assignment, lane assignment football, man, it's hard on teams, man. Very hard on teams. But everybody don't have the personnel to be able to do that. That's the problem. That's where Georgia is excelling now more than everyone because we don't have to load up the box to stop anything.
Well, let me ask you this, too. Okay, so we get the wide receivers. We got the running game. We got the offensive line. But one thing that was missing out of this class, it was the quarterback position. But when you go back, and me and George just were talking about it, we're talking about the heyday of Alabama, so to speak. Well, they didn't have that heyday, that great quarterback up until this period now, right? Until the Tua, until the Mac Jones, and then, you know, now the Bryce Young. How much does the quarterback really matter? I mean, I want you to speak to the fans and listeners on this. How much does the quarterback really matter, the 5-star quarterback, to get things done and accomplished to win another national championship? And I guess I'm saying that with Stetson already in our rear view. But, I mean, what does it matter, T?
And I want to add on to your question, Lamar. And do you think we have that guy on campus now that can step in next year? Yeah, we got some young guys, but we still got next year coming up, and our quarterback is leaving. You know what I mean? Do you think we got enough to compete again? Because as a whole, the team might be better next year if we don't crap the bed at QB. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, and you can answer Lamar, and do we have that on campus now?
So I think we went, you know, we put all our eggs in one basket with the Manning kid, which I give my 100% opinion. I didn't think he was worthy of the number one quarterback. The kid that went to Tennessee, to me, fits what Tennessee wants to do, throwing the ball vertically. He has a rocket of an arm. I would rather us went after him or one of the other quarterbacks. I've watched him, and he just didn't pop to me. So I read what Kirby's like. He is very comfortable with the young quarterbacks that we have on our right now. I read him say that. So if we didn't get Arch Manning, we wasn't going to go out and get any quarterbacks in this cycle. So we have, you know, 3 quarterbacks who I think can get it done. I think Carson Beck has showed flashes. in limited time that he has. So he's giving all us a little hope, like he's going to be able to continue the tradition that we started, that, you don't have to have that 5-star quarterback to win. I talked about this today. What do you have to have in college football right now to be, I think, a successful quarterback? One is, you got to be able to throw the football. You have to be able to process information very quickly. You have to be able to be accurate. But one thing that college footballers went to, you got to be mobile in today's college game. We cannot have a, Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady, guy that sits back there and can't. What I always say, I need a quarterback that can get me 10 yards on 39 with his legs. He don't have to be Michael Vick. He don't have to be Lamar Jackson. But he got to be able to move in his pocket and run. With the high-tempo offenses these days, a lot of teams are playing 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers. Then that other backer is a nickel now. So we're more pass plan for the RPO game. So you got to be able to maneuver yourself in the pockets. One thing I think Stetson, and why he kept this job, because he was able to move around in that pocket when things broke down. So the quarterback roster right now, I think, be able to do that. I think Carson Beck is probably the least mobile, but I think he will be able to move the chains on a 3rd down and 9 and get us 10. The 2 younger guys are very athletic. Vandergrift and what's the other one?
Gunnar Stockton.
So I coached against Gunnar when he was at Raven County. And he plays the position similar to Max Duggan, the TCU quarterback. That is
right.
He plays it like a linebacker. He's thick. Paul's about 220, thick lower body. And he's able to take on defenders once he get into the open field. So we got guys that is able to, I think personally, is going to continue to put us in position to be where we at right now. And I don't think the quarterback position is going to be the reason we drop off.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And like you said, with guys that you want a guy that can get you a 1st down. Like,
right.
You give me an Aaron Murray type athlete, I'm fine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, Aaron can take off, and before you know it, he got 10 yards.
Right.
You know what I mean? Peyton Manning take off? Don't quite know.
Right.
He might. You know what I'm saying? He might not. You know what I mean? So I believe, like you believe, that we'll be fine at quarterback. And then, don't we already have one for 24? Assuming we keep
So,
what is it?
Ryan Puglisi.
Puglisi from
Massachusetts.
PA.
Yeah.
He's from Massachusetts. Okay. Well, somewhere in the Northeast.
Yeah. So I didn't know if y'all saw that the number 1 quarterback in the 24 class decommitted from Ohio State, and all the
yeah. I played with his dad.
Huh?
I played with his dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I played with his dad.
We will be in the thick of things with him.
Yeah. He should he should definitely consider it, man. It's a good place. Kid from out west, you wonder if, he'd be comfortable coming back east, but Georgia, when you get on campus here in Athens, man, it's tough to pass up, man. It's a nice place to play. You get that Saturday atmosphere. You definitely come to Athens on a Saturday, man. You're gonna want to stay.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's electric. So we'll see, man. I might need to have to put in the call to Dominic, his dad.
So when you and I was coming out, the recruiting pitch for years was, let's lock down the state. Let's lock down, try to get the best players out of state. Man, you just think about Kirby now, man. The state is not what he is not locking down the state anymore. He's locking down the country.
He has that luxury.
Guys, it's less Georgia guys in this class than anything else. So Kirby is, like you say, Kirby and the Georgia Bulldogs now is a national brand. We're just not we're just Northeast anymore. Just think about this class. We got a kid from Nevada again. Got a bunch of them from Florida.
Carolinas.
So we're Carolina. So we're going all over. We're not local no more. We're not in the Southeast anymore. We're going out. If Kirby identify someone that fits his mold, he's going to get him, man.
He's going to get him. Like, and so, and we do the same thing in the state too. If we find somebody in the state that we want,
right,
we go get them.
Right.
You know, like you can win with this state.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it's just it's so many guys, like it's so many people poaching that you gotta be able to stretch your limbs out to these other states, you know, right, because like Georgia, especially the Atlanta area now, it used to kind of be South Georgia, but the Atlanta area now is the hotbed for talent. Like any of these college coaches will tell you that Georgia is the place, right, you know, in the country, you know, so why not stretch out if you can and you're a national brand.
Right.
Okay, now I need both of y'all to help me understand this because, I mean, I'm racking my brains on this one, fellas. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got Georgia, you got Alabama, you got two proven products. I'll even go so far as to say Clemson because they won a national championship relatively recently, right? Mm-hmm. But what are these kids thinking in terms of going to schools that really don't have their footing underneath them? I'm talking, you know, the school like a Miami, like a Florida that's down, right? Some of the other schools across the nation. If you're one of the top tier guys, why are you not choosing a Georgia? Or is it just Georgia not choosing you? I mean, you guys, again, George, you talked about your process. TE, you haven't talked about yours yet, but what's going through the mind of a recruit right now in terms of what he's thinking about, especially you, TE, because you work hand in hand with a lot of these young athletes. What are they thinking in terms of making their choices?
I was going to ask you something similar to that. Like, these kids, you know, you know, do they assume your bias or do they talk to you like, you know, just like, just somebody they can lean on?
Right. That's a good question. So I could go down just to answer that, George. The list of players that I've had my hands on, and it's been documented with Jermaine Burton, Eric Gilbert, Ramel Keaton from Tim. Like I've had my hand on a lot of these guys from an early age. And the first thing that I tell their parents, don't do anything because of me. If you go to Georgia, fine. If you don't, you don't. And I sit here and tell them when they ask me about my advice, I give them pros and cons. And after every spill, I tell them, this is your life to live. You all make a decision. Whatever you like, I love it. So I let them know, don't do anything because of me, because I've already lived my life. And I don't want you to come back and say, well, Terrence, you told us to do this. And the experience does not come back to what they think it is. My experience was great. Georgia, I don't know about you, but if we even could go back, I love my time at Athens. It was the best decision for me.
So, you know, I feel the same way.
So I tell these kids,
I didn't take no more visits after, you know, probably you. I was green to the whole deal. So I was like, oh, I committed. I'm done. Like I called Tennessee and Auburn. I was like, I ain't coming.
But that's what we did though, George. Me and Jesse and Big D, we all committed at our football banquet in late December after the state championship game, maybe early January. And once we committed, we was done. But, you know, that don't mean that these days. So it's different. Times are different. And a lot of times I try not to sound like the old man on the porch because my process and our process now is different than these processes.
The schools drop kids too nowadays. So they got to look out for themselves.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing with this. I don't know if you, George, but coming out of high school, man, if we had the opportunity to make what these kids are making right now, and everyone always talk about, well, why you won't go to Georgia, you get to win championship. If you think about it, as an 18-year-old, somebody throws $100,000 or $500,000 or what these kids are doing, I don't care about winning a national championship as an 18-year-old. There's a lot of family have never seen. I'm going to probably go and protect my family more than that trying to win a championship. But as an adult,
and if you're a good enough athlete, you can still go. If your ultimate goal is the NFL, you can still accomplish that. Like no matter where you go.
Right.
So I understand these kids. So that might tie into Lamar's question. You know, why wouldn't you pick a top tier team? Your Georgia, Alabama, you know, Clemson. You know, well, that could be one of the reasons why.
So Texas A&M last year. That is you know, they say they didn't buy anyone, but they've never had the #1 recruiting class ever. So there's something going on there that was a little different, right? A lot of those kids, and I don't blame them, they went and took care of themselves. They took care of themselves first, and they got a lot of money out of it, right? So as an 18-year-old, I'm looking at Georgia, I'm looking at Alabama, I'm looking at Clemson, but Texas A&M is also putting $600, $700, $1 million in my face. That's hard to charge.
Just think about some of the folks we went to school with. We don't even have to name names. We know how they came up.
Right.
You know what I mean? I ain't have much at all, and it was folks with a lot less than me.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I say I ain't have much at all, I ain't have much at all. But my mama could feed me. You know what I mean? And I had clothes to wear. I know people, you know, we went to school with some people that ain't have that, you know.
Those Pell checks was the best thing going. And imagine those Pell checks were probably $2,500 at the time.
Split up.
So if I can remember. Now imagine throwing a top recruit that's grown up with nothing, and you tell them an NIL deal worth of $600, $700. Come on. They're doing it because I would. And I love Georgia. But I would at that time. That's a lot of money that nobody in your family have never seen. And fortunately, the first round draft pick, I still would have went and took that.
Right. Like this, like when we came out, now it's different now. The league minimum probably $500,000-$600,000. It's still kids.
So it was $220.
And it's kids, it's freshmen that ain't played a down yet. They could pull in more than that.
Right.
Think about it.
Well, I think you answered it in totality. And what made me think about it was I was listening to the Pivot podcast and had Isaiah Thomas on. And Isaiah Thomas was talking about how much money he was offered to go other places. And Mama sat down and said, "No, you going to Indiana. You're going to play for Coach Bobby Knight." Now, mind you, he might have gotten something from Indiana, but, you know, to his recollection, he didn't get anything from Indiana. But you know, Mama made the choice. And, you know, I'm thinking now, how many families are really truly making that choice? Or is it really just a family choice of, hey, you know what, either we're going to go for the money and hopefully the money continues to flow if we get to the NFL, or do we go to the place that's going to build?
Here's the thing, though. Zeke was talking about in a time where, you know, it was quote unquote illegal. You got these kids, they're able to secure, you know, in some of them case, 6 figures for themselves and their family, like completely above board. So they're not worried about, you know, who knows what Zeke mama knew. You know, like, we're not doing this. You can come back and this, that, and that. It's probably all kind of reservations about that back then, you know, that don't exist right now. So
the tall receiver we got from Lakeland, is it Tyrell Williams? Is that his name?
Tyler Williams,
right? So I saw his mama tweet during the recruiting process and saying that her son is not going to the highest bidder. Her son is going somewhere where it fits him and it's not about the money. So there will be some families that truly go and, you know, this is where we're going to go and it fits and it's not about that, but that's far between. It's going to be more than likely that a lot of people are going to go where they get the highest bid.
And at least something. You know what I mean?
Right.
One of the highest bidders.
Right. So, and I don't blame them for that. But there will be some families that, you know, that is not their main concern, and I commend them. But again, I still think I would have entertained the money before anything else coming out.
Well, before we transition to the actual on the field play, because we definitely want to talk about that. We got the college football playoffs coming against Ohio State. I had to ask you this too, because it does play into recruiting now, the whole process of it, which is NIL. And you have guys now that are jumping inside the portal. The portal's as large as it's ever been. But now you got to navigate that as well as a coach and as a staff. How many guys you're going to lose? How many guys you're going to bring in? How are you going to replenish those things? What are your thoughts right now on that portal and how it's kind of dictating things through college football?
It's a mess, to be honest with you. And I don't think Kirby will mind me saying this, and I've heard this from multiple coaches in college football, that you have to re-recruit your own players. So now, let alone you got to focus on bringing in high school recruits and try to seal some of these deals. You also got to seal the deals with your own players to try to convince them to stay. So their job is much harder. That's why, Kirby now and all the other coaches making this absurd amount of money. Good for them, $10, $12 million. But, their job is not easy. These coaching jobs are not easy, trying to keep these players happy. And as a coach right now, especially for that first transfer, it's hard to coach them hard these days, because if you coach them hard and you say something that offends them or whatever, they're going to jump into the portal. Mm-hmm. The second time around is where it gets a little tricky. Now, the rules goes back to when Georgia and I played this. You have to sit out. You can't unless you're a grad transfer. But you got kids on campus right now that's been in school for 6 months, and you're already in the portal.
Yeah,
so,
see, that makes sense. That don't make sense to me. Like,
don't either.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, you got to give it some time.
Right.
like a lot of people. I don't know. I think kids, especially the top tier teams, I think they don't do a whole bunch of red shirting anymore. It seems like more kids, more top tier players play so they can get these classes in and out. They graduating kids in 3 years now. Like, they rolling kids through there. You know what I mean? But back in the day, we had to wait. Unless you was a Terrence Edwards, I wasn't a Terrence Edwards. You know what I mean? I had to learn how to play college football. But some people had to wait, and it was fine. It worked out for me.
I talked about this recently. You think about the national championship team, and I'm gonna call some names out and tell you, and y'all give me and tell me the common denominator. Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, that whole group. The other linebacker that got drafted, 41, Kendall. All those guys waited their turn. Every single one of them. Only one that really played as a freshman was Trayvon Walker. All those guys who was the leaders of that team waited their turn, and it paid off. We don't want to wait anymore.
Yeah, they got a national championship and first round money.
It can be done. That's proven fact. That if you wait, develop Devontae Wyatt, all those guys waited their turn, ended up getting a national championship and being a first round pick. So it can happen, but I gotta digress a little. This stuff is happening in the youth parks. Say something. Don't play my son enough. I just go to the next team instead of waiting my turn, developing, waiting. You never know. No, they want instant gratification. We want this microwave now where I'm going to just pop it in and pop it out. If not, I'm going to leave. We're not putting stuff in the oven anymore. We're not warming our food up in the oven anymore. We're microwaving it. And if you don't like it, I'm just going to go to the next team. And that's what we're living in right now. And it started in the youth league. It started in the youth football league right now.
The thing about it is you would think there would be enough cautionary tales out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of cautionary tales out there to tell you that, hey, yeah, you could leave, but it could turn out like this.
Right.
It could turn out like that. You know what I mean? You might not get what you think you're getting. You know what I mean? I've had, friends transfer and it just didn't work out at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, you have to look at that, and you have to weigh it really, really good. Like, it should not be an easy decision to transfer.
Correct.
Like, it should not, I don't care who you are, it should not be an easy decision. Unless you need to change your scenery. Things happen in life, outside of football. You can have family issues. You want to be closer to home. There are other things. But as far as solely football and school is concerned, that should not be an easy decision. Like, there should be some time taken to know what you're getting into, and you got to be okay with it going your way and with it not going your way. Right. You got to put all of that on the table and weigh it and say, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to stay here and wait it out. And, I'm telling you, if you're worth anything, it usually works out, man. Correct. Coaches want to win, because when they win, they get paid and they check guaranteed. You know what I mean? And so if you can play, you're going to get on the field. Right. You know what I mean? And it's up to you to do what you want to do. And if your goal is the next level, you can do that too. Right. You know what I mean? People like, I didn't have a ton of starts. I was a fifth-year senior without a ton of starts, and I was pick number 20. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Like, you can get this thing a number of ways, but you can't just jump in. You can't just bounce when it don't go your way.
Right. No, that's what they're doing, though. And bouncing in a year, 8 months and bouncing. Like,
that's crazy to me.
Haven't given enough time to even marinate. So I wish the transfer rule was a little different.
I like that they can move. I like that they can move on if they want to. I like that, but I want them to show some type of restraint and some type of resolve sometime. I like that the option is there. You know what I mean? But that puts the onus on the kid to make the right decision. Right. You know what I mean? And they have to.
And I agree with that. And I also I like the movement. I just don't like how everyone used the portal as a crutch. Like, if I don't like my coach, I'm not playing enough, and you ain't waited it out yet and you can leave it. There's got to be some stipulations. And my stipulation was, because everybody always talk about, well, the coach can move freely. Yeah, the coach can move. If the coaches, coordinators move, players should be able to, in that year, move freely when that coach or coordinator moves. Coach doesn't move, you can transfer. You just have to sit out, just like the old school. But if that coach leaves or the coordinators leave, you can leave right on with them and not being able to sit out. That's what I would like to see. Or if you fulfill your obligations academically, you can go as a grad transfer. I just think we've made it too easy for a freshman that's been there for 8 months to just dip because of, I'm not playing enough. That's not a good reason to transfer as a freshman.
Well, T.E., without digging too deep in the woods, we know you got a relationship with Tariq Gilbert. I'm not going to go too deep into that because it is a sensitive situation because you do have that relationship. But have you reached out to him? Have you talked to him? How's he doing?
I haven't been and spoke to him. So I, just heard that he's put his name back in the transfer portal. I've reached out. I'll give you a little back. Eric is he's not your typical young adult. And what I mean by that is, I'm gonna just put it on myself. If I leave my phone somewhere, I'm in a panic. If I can't walk out the house without my phone. Eric don't care about that stuff. Like, I've seen it plenty of times where we've been training and he'll just leave his phone. And I'm like, whose phone? Like, that stuff don't matter to him. So getting him on the phone is very hard. Getting him on the phone is always. So I haven't talked to him. When I went to the Tennessee game, I spoke to him then. I told him, man, call me. I'm going to call you, coach. And he haven't called in. That's not abnormal for him. So I would usually talk to his mother. And I haven't talked to his mother yet, and I will try to reach out. I'm sure she's getting a lot, so I'm going to just let it cool down. So I don't know what's going on right now to just answer the question. So I have I don't know. Like I always say, I just keep praying for the young brother just to be healthy.
Yeah. We just want him well, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want him well. I've been watching him since he was over there with Ryan and Woodward. I just want the kid to be right.
Right. That's it.
A lot of life to live.
Correct.
Well, let's transition to the season, man. It's been a great year. I know me and George talked about it. We brought it up a couple episodes back. Was it something that we expected? Was this season something you expected? 12-0 season, SEC East champions, SEC champions completely. Was this a season that you expected?
I did expect. We talked about it.
We did.
I expected looking at the schedule, I expected that we should win every game. But I didn't know how it would happen, how it would manifest, though. I didn't know how it would look. I didn't know we would be missing AD for the whole season. You know what I mean? I didn't know, I didn't know some of the ways that we did it. I didn't know it would happen that way. What do you think about it, Terrence?
So the one thing that especially defense, so I want to go to the defensive side of the ball before I go to the offense, because we saw a historical defense last year, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone kept asking me when I'm on, podcasts, I'm doing that, like, what are we going to see? And I always spoke about we're not losing much talent-wise. Like, the backups are just as talented as Nakobe. I'm not saying that Dumas or Smile Monday is those two. They're right there with them talent-wise. My concern going into the season is where are we going to get that leadership from? And George knows it. You have a strong locker room. You can do some stuff together, and that's all they kept talking about was how together this team was. And that's what was my concern is, are we going to get that leadership that we lost? Talent-wise, I want Curtis recruiting his butt off. So I'm never going to be worried about talent. I'm going to be worried about, is this team together? Do we have the leaders to keep this team together? That's what I wanted to see. And I think the leader was Chris Smith. I think Chris Smith was that bona fide leader that kept that thing together. And Dumas was that other leader that I didn't know if he had those qualities. And he showed me that he has those qualities to be a leader. So we're going to lose Chris Smith, but Dumas is still going to be there to be that guy that hold that defense together. I'm an offensive guy. We're going to go as far as our defense take us because that's what and you look at the linebackers that we've recruited. The big kid out of North Carolina who I was told he was 6'6", 381. So he's going to be that rock inside. So talent is always going to be there. It's just that leadership. That's what always gets me and Jordan. If you have a strong leadership in the room, you can go a long way. Talent that's how it was our senior year, man. Right. We had a lot of seniors, a lot of seniors and a lot of leaders, like Tony. Right. And, he was a leader. Tony, Boss, I say with Stinchcom, like a
lot of leaders, and we only lost one game. Like there's not a coincidence.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got a lot of guys who had played a lot of football and that had a lot of respect for each other. Right. We jailed together, and we had been through the fire that whole time. You know what I mean? That led up, it culminated, and by the time we left, it was the most wins in Georgia history because we didn't play that many games as they play now. 13 wins. That was the most ever in school history. And I believe it was because of the leadership and guys that had that experience. And that's why I've said all year, it's been pretty impressive that Georgia has been able to go undefeated, win an SEC championship so far with how young that team is.
Right.
Like I'm very, I felt we could win every game, but it's just in hindsight, it's like seeing how young the team is and how many young people played that had to play. Like that's kind of unheard of for them to do what they did with a team that young.
and I'm going to use this to say why I think our team was so good. We liked each other. Like,
yeah.
we liked each other. So there wasn't really no animosity in our locker room. Everybody was happy for each other. And I just felt like last year's team, they genuinely liked each other and played for them. And I think this team likes each other and plays for each other. It's the culture. I think that goes with the culture that I think we kind of started Georgia. We liked each other. We liked being around each other. We did things together. Group. It wasn't just an offense or defense. It was a group of us, our seniors that came in together. That 98 class was the seniors that took, and we genuinely liked each other. And I think the culture stands for these kids are actually playing for each other. I mean, you think about how much they rotate, right? And no one is above the stats. No one is really talking about my stats. Dumas was a Buckets finalist, and he had half of the stats of what these other finalists had, but he was the leader of that team, especially in the front, and his play dictated that he should have been there. Just like Nakobe didn't have the gaudy stats, but his play on the field dictate he should have been there. Everybody was genuinely happy for him. So if you get a locker room and the culture that Kirby has set, that was the biggest thing for me, is how well they played together. And you didn't see guys doing things for me, and they're doing stuff for us. That's the biggest thing that I took away from this season. And Stetson, when your quarterback is liked, like Stetson is liked, then everyone plays for him.
Yep. Yep. They really rally around Stetson. They really like him. And you can't say nothing bad about Stetson. They're gonna jump on you. You know what I mean? They don't show it time and time out. Hey, don't say nothing about that's my quarterback. You know what I mean?
That's
so
crazy.
They love him.
I'm McClendon to voicemail, so I'm gonna tell him it was you, George. I said be Matt the voicemail just now.
Tell me it's on me.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, because I know you got some other things to do. As we head into this college football playoffs against Ohio State, we talked about how good this team is. We talked about the leadership. Is there anything that concerns you? Because I know if you're like us, we ain't worried about Ohio State. We think that we're going to win the national championship. That we got to stick, got to win the Ohio State game first. But is there anything going into this game that concerns you?
So as a coach, man, you just try to figure out, okay, strengths and weaknesses. I think, putting the game plan together as a coach, you try to figure out their tendencies and what their weakness, and we're going to try to exploit that weaknesses. And it's up to them to try to, okay, this has been our weakness. Try to, okay, we got a way for this not to be a weakness. And right now, let's just call a spade a spade. The LSU game, we didn't cover as well as I thought we should have. I'll just say this. I think Keelan Ringo is a safety. I've watched enough football. He is huge. If you've ever been close to him,
he's huge. Yeah, my scout friends going to Georgia to do the body type. They do body type. That's why you go to the game. You can always watch film, but you go to the game as an area scout to do body type.
Right.
And like my boy said, man, let's say that boy Rigo is huge.
He's huge. He's a corner that will tackle, but he's inconsistent in coverage. And there's a lot of times where he frustrates you, but then he'll make a play. So yep. I do it for a star or a safety. I don't think he's a true corner.
Yeah, but not natural at it.
Not natural. I just think the secondary has to play their best game to do what Michigan did to them. Now, offensive, I don't think Ohio State have seen what we will be able to bring to them in our 12 and 13 package. Darnell is a bona fide offensive tackle, but so you don't have to bring in an extra tackle if you want to go unbalanced or anything like that. He is big enough man. If you think
he huge.
He is legit 6'7", 6'8", 280. So big man. So And Brock also brings a different dimension that I don't think they're, he's a unicorn. There's not
nobody's built for that.
In ever. George's been a scout. Like Cal Pitts is that other one that was just a problem. And I don't think Cal is straight line fast as Brock.
Right.
So I just think, I think we will win. I just think the secondary wise have to play better because Ohio State's going to look at it like, okay, what we do best is throw the ball. What LSU did to them, we can try to exploit some of those weaknesses. Defensive secondary has to play better for us to do what we think. I think they'll be able to move the ball. We can't give them the explosive plays, but we got to make them catch the football. They're going to catch the football and tackle. We can't allow them to catch it, break it for an 80-yard run. They catch it for a 15-yard dig, tackle them, get them on the ground. Let's play the next play.
Yeah. And then I've noticed that, and I don't know why it seems like this. I know you don't want to give up yards, but it seems like there's no panic when teams get across the 40, across the 50, because that field gets smaller and our defense gets so much better.
Right.
Like it's like you cross the 50 on us, like you can barely do anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? What's the last question before we let you go? What do you think about those receivers at Ohio State? Legit guys. I know Harrison looks like a qualified stud.
Legit.
Like his daddy.
The good thing about playing Tennessee early on is their group is very comparable to Ohio State. Different type of offense for us. The splits that Tennessee uses, nobody does that in college football but Tennessee that I've seen. Ohio State is more your traditional spread. I scouted Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out. I did not think he was very good in high school. I was like, how did he become 6'4"? We both know his daddy, George, 100 pounds at best. He might be 165.
Yeah. But
he was that dude. And I just did not think he was going to blossom into what we seen. Marvin Harrison Jr. is legit. Their number one receiver already said that he is not playing. That helps us. But their receivers and their quarterback is legit. I think we're going to be able to have to get pressure.
I think they will too against that O-line. They have a good tackle. They got a good left tackle. He's a beast.
Actually, yeah. So we could generate pressure like we did against Tennessee. I think you will see exactly what we did to Tennessee that we'll do to Ohio State. I think he'll still probably throw for 300 yards, but that's normal for them being able. As long as there is not explosive, as long as it's not just Steph Curry 3 bombs away, 3, and we just make them drive, and like George say, we get them past. They get past the 50. It's tough. It's tough on us. We just can't allow the team to get explosive plays on us.
Well, we usually ask our guests if you want to give a prediction. You want to give a prediction for the game, the actual score?
Hey, I'm a football player. I'm superstitious at heart. Last time I think I gave a prediction, we lost. All I'm saying, Georgia win. I don't care if it's by 1 point.
Hey, the listeners they're going to appreciate that. It don't matter. All right, T, before you get up out of here, man, tell everybody what you're into, what you anything you want to promote, let the people know.
So everyone knows, you can see the shirt right now. It's that time of the year again. It's off season. So TE Wide Receiver Academy is on and popping. We're going to start back up. If you watch my social media, you see that bubble work. That's what I call it. With Ron Veal, the renowned quarterback coach here that's trained Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields since they was in middle school. So him and I collaborate. We've been doing this now for about 6 years, where to me, to become a better receiver, you got to be able to catch the ball from the quarterbacks, not just going out there doing drill work. We're going to drill. We're going to work on all the fundamentals, but you got to be able to incorporate these drills and being able to catch a football from all types of quarterbacks, bad balls, good balls. That's what makes you become a better receiver. So starting in January, that's when the bubble work starts again. And yeah, man, you can find me on all social media platforms at Terrence Edwards Wide Receiver Academy.
All right. The listeners got it. We're going to give it to them. And we appreciate you coming on, TE. You know, this is the second time you came on. So you welcome anytime you want to come on the 100 Sanford podcast. You ain't got to ask. Just say, hey, look, send me the link.
Hey, so
No doubt.
I double booked tonight. I told you all a few weeks ago that I would come, but one of my main guys, Caden Lee, out of Kennesaw Mountain, committed tonight, and I wasn't able to come. He did it at 7:30. I don't even know where he went yet, so I can't wait to see where he's going to go. I think Ole Miss, but I don't know.
That's the kid with the big hair, right?
Yeah,
Honeycomb.
I like him. He's nice. He's nice.
He is legit.
He is nice. I like him. I see when you post his stuff. He's a dog.
Yeah, he's legit. And so he's committed tonight. He's going to enroll early. I know his top schools are South Carolina, Central Florida, and Ole Miss. So I thought Ole Miss was a good fit for him. I didn't tell him that. So let's just see where he decides to go.
All right. You heard it here first. So let's find out. We're going to tap in as soon as you get off and find out where he went. But again, we appreciate you coming on. Again, anytime you want to stop in, you can.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right,
appreciate you, T.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was Terrence Edwards, another DGD that comes on the show, able to speak about that wide receiver position, because, quite honestly, a lot of people have been interested in that wide receiver position, especially with Ladd going down recently. We still have not heard whether he's going to come back yet for the college football playoffs, at least the first round against Ohio State. We're still going to get updates on that. But that's a position, as we get into the player side of things, during this early signing period that they upgraded, man. And he started to talk about it. You got Tyler Williams. You got the kid out of Philadelphia, Yazid, and then you got our boy Anthony Edwards, who flipped. He was going Georgia. Then he went Oklahoma. Now he comes back to Georgia.
Yeah, come on back here, man. Come on, man. Get for real. It's Oklahoma, yo. Come on.
Well, see, that's the reason I asked the question, right? I asked the question, why would a kid go to a certain place where there's better options that we perceive, right? Because you got Oklahoma, brand new coaching staff. It's not the same type of offense that they had with a Caleb Williams, under center. You got guys going to Miami. You got guys going to Texas A&M. Heck, they just had 20-something guys into the portal. Why in the world would you go to a school like that? But I appreciate that answer that TE was able to give, that yourself was able to give. But getting back to those receivers, flat-out speed has now come to Athens because these dudes can fly. And if you need to go look at the huddles, go look at their huddle. Not only can they fly, they run great routes. And I'm looking forward to Williams and Evans, quite honestly, thunder and lightning, because I think they're going to be phenomenal in the next 2 to 3 years in Athens. I mean, I think it's just going to be something different that we haven't seen in a long, long time.
Yes, sir.
With that being said, we also talked about, all the recruits that did sign. But the big one, the big crowning jewel, I guess, for the end of the day, he did commit Damon Wilson, the edge outside linebacker from Florida. George, I don't know if you could have handled it.
I was about to ask you, man. Tell me about this kid, man. Give me the skinny.
I don't think you could have handled him. Whether freshman year, senior year. I mean, he's that different. Man, I don't even know if there's a comparable. He's lean, he's strong, he's explosive. He's a true edge guy. And I know when
I look at it, you said tall, lean, you say long, lean, explosive. Sounds like Jason Taylor to me.
Ooh, nah. See, Jason's from Pittsburgh, so I saw him, right? I saw Jason as a, freshman year. He didn't really truly develop until he got to college, until he was at Akron, right? But this kid, I mean, he's got the only concern I would have, and this is something we have not seen underneath Kirby, is him truly allowing his edge guys to go off and just get the quarterback. I mean, Adam Anderson, when he was doing it and getting ready to get into his flow before, obviously had to step away from the game for personal reasons, he was the last guy that we've seen under Kirby Kirby was like, all right, just go get the quarterback. This kid, if you say go get the quarterback, he's going to be a 15-sack guy. He's going to be that dude. His bend, his leverage, I mean, it's insane. So you put Mpembo on one side, and I'm projecting a couple years down the road, obviously, and you put Damon Wilson on the other with these middle linebackers flowing and doing whatever they want to do, It's a scary situation, man, a very scary situation. And they obviously, it came down to Georgia and Ohio State, and Georgia pulled it out. So it's a big, big get for Georgia. I know he was a primary target coming down the stretch. And, you know, and one thing that's interesting to me, and when Kirby was talking about you have to see 3 to 4 years out, I like to look at projections like this. If you get a class of 24 kids, half of those guys got to hit, at least half, to be your starters. Another quarter has to be primary depth because you're going to lose some guys through the portal and everything else. And then maybe another quarter is just not going to pan out, or they are going to portal out. If you look at it with the guys that they got out of this class, you got another national champion. You really do, just out of this class alone. Whether
they got some studs. If they turn out how they supposed to, listen, they got some studs. Yeah, some show enough studs. Yeah, and I'm excited about this class, man.
Yeah, and I was, you know, the only position that I think a lot of people were still concerned about was the running back position because we missed on some people, but then we ended up getting Roderick Robinson out of California, big kid that can tote that rock. You would love him. You would love the block for him because he's one of those kids going to hit the hole. You just do your job up front. He going to finish off the rest. And I think the kid that they got, Kyron from North Carolina, I personally would have him at running back. I think he could be another James Cook type situation where he's able to come in with that speed, that elusive speed, which we don't necessarily have at the running back position. Somebody who's a complete game breaker. I think if that happened, you got a bona fide, you know, backfield in those two. But it was a very impressive recruiting class from top to bottom for Georgia. It just was.
Good. We got a guy. How many guys are on campus now?
Going into the day,
Tyler. Who else is there?
Yeah, going into the day, there were 9 guys on campus. Let me see. I think it was Tyler. I think it was Evans,
Harris,
C.J. Allen, the linebacker. I think Joshua. No, I think Doogie's not there yet. Joshua, but he is he's enrolling. But they had 9 guys on campus, so which is good, you know. And already,
and it pays dividends. We had some guys there now that came in early, and it panned out. You know, it worked out for them. Starks, you know, last year, Brock. I think one Brock early enrollee. Yeah.
So, now these guys are already on campus, so they've been there. You know, been watching practices and maybe involved in practices. But I think Kirby during this press conference said there were some other guys that are still going to enroll early. They just have to, officially, get those that schoolwork done, so to speak. You know, in terms of signing all the information they need to sign, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and then they will be on campus early, in that spring program. So, but very impressive, to say the least. And I just wanted to touch on this before we got up out of here. You talk about the schools that are in the top 10, top 5 recruiting classes. One thing that there was one school that was not, and I know you love to talk about it. Florida didn't have nobody in the top 50, man.
Hey man. They're lost.
Nobody in the top 50.
Hey, man, listen, man. The recipe right there in front of you. Like, there's got to be somebody in that Florida lineage that they can hire to start a renaissance of sorts. You know what I mean? Like, I think Kirby has an incredible advantage having played for Georgia. Shoot, you can Google his football plays. Like, these kids on phones every day. Like, they can see that the head coach was all SEC. He's young enough to relate to them. He has kids, that are young. Like, and he, like I said, he played for the school. Like, I think that's a big deal, and like that should be the blueprint for a lot of these SEC schools, ACC schools. Like it would have been something to see. Like if, just say for instance, if, you know, I feel like Florida State is trending up. Just say they was trending backwards and they wanted to cut bait and hire Prime. That would be scary. They would make Florida a lot harder to recruit for us.
Yeah.
You know,
most
got a guy like he can talk that talk. You can walk around the corner and probably see a Deion statue somewhere. Like it's like built-in success. You know what I mean? And that's what Kirby brings. You know, to Georgia. You know what I mean? So I don't mind that Florida is behind the 8 ball. You know what I mean? Tough cookies. But yeah.
Yeah, man. And it's funny too, because you did mention schools hiring guys and know the process, and Mario Cristobal, you know, they hired him down at Miami, and you see the results already. I mean, they didn't win big this past year. I think he's still developing his culture. I think he's still kind of getting rid of some of the weeds that were in the grass there in Miami. But a number 3 recruiting class, they needed talent, and he's going out and he's getting that talent, and hopefully he's recruiting the guys that he's recruiting.
That's big. I didn't know it was number 3. Sheesh.
Yeah, number 3 recruiting class, and this is still without Kamani McLean.
Right. That's crazy.
Right. I mean, you saw, you know, we was in the same chats, which I thought was hilarious, but my man left a cake that said, I ain't coming. I mean, I don't know. If I'm Cristobal, I kind of move on from that myself anyway. If that's the way that you're going to treat the process, and you're one of our crowning jewels of this particular class, I'm going to move on. I already got the number 3 class. I'm going to find somebody in the portal at least that can tide me over from a cornerback position and then continue to move forward. But we'll see, we'll see how vested they are with the kid. Hopefully he ends up making the right decision for his own personal life. A lot of people are kind of speculating that he might head to Alabama or out to Colorado, with your guy Prime. So we'll see what happens with him. I hope he makes the best decision for himself. But I'm like you, the blueprint is there. And hopefully a lot of schools, especially in the SEC, that we battle against, don't take that approach. Don't go get the guy that played for their own particular school, that knows how to recruit, knows how to make things happen. And I think, quite honestly, even on Georgia's staff, they got a bunch of guys that can go to different schools that now know the blueprint. And Kirby knew the blueprint. Kirby was part of the blueprint at Alabama, part of that blueprint at LSU when Nick Saban was there. So he knows how to develop programs, and some of these guys will take it, as we see Dan Lanning doing the same thing up at Oregon, developing a program, just learning that blueprint from Kirby. So, but it was a great day, to say the least, in terms of recruiting, in terms of Georgia. I appreciated having TE on to talk about it, talk a little bit about the college football playoffs, which we will dig deeper into next week, because it'll be the week before the college football playoffs in Ohio State. But before we get out of here, man, I know I will not talk. Well, I'll talk to you, but I won't see you before Christmas. Anything special going on for Christmas, man? The girls got you broke yet?
You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, been broke. Been broke. They got me down bad. You know what I mean? But man, I want everybody, you, the listeners, Graham, Trey, have a Merry Christmas, man. Merry Christmas. And we're going to get back together and talk about these Dogs, get ready to defend this national championship.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, you and the girls have a Merry Christmas. All the listeners, be safe. No doubt about that. Stay healthy. COVID and all the rest of that flu and bug is still out there. So do what you got to do to keep yourself safe so you can enjoy, the national championship run. But Merry Christmas. And with that being said, go Dogs. Or see you at 100 Sanford, and go Dogs.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening to the 100 Sanford podcast. Tune in weekly to hear fresh content from the 100 Sanford podcast every Thursday, but also with some pop-up shows every now and then as news breaks. You can also follow the content on our website, www.100sanfordpodcast.com, and email us at dogs@100sanfordpodcast.com. Lastly, reach out to us on social media streams. For Twitter, it's at 100 Sanford, but on IG, TikTok, Facebook, and other accounts, it's 100 Sanford Podcast. All right, folks, that's it. And as usual, see you at 100 Sanford.